I tell you, I had a first date last night.
No, you did not. You were obviously saving that for this. All right. All right. Well, how did it go?
Um, Scottish real estate agent.
I'm sorry. I don't know how well
No, that ruined my next bit because I was going to say something really prejudiced and really controversial, and that I fucking hate real estate agents. And so it's like the only disclaimer is like she's sort of fresh. She's fresh to the industry. You know what I mean? Before that, she was a social worker, but now she's sort of stepped into property management. And I'm like,
the corporate sales has not infected her yet.
we don't know. You know, it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. So stay tuned, and we can see how this works out. See how this works out.
Will there be a date too?
Well, I hope so, but who knows, Broedy?
Interesting. He hates the real estate agents. He does not hate her.
No, yeah. I mean, she was cool. She was fun. She was fine. From Glasgow, and the accent's a little sexy. So I'm like, there's a soul there somewhere, surely. You know, we'll hold on to the good stuff. Roll the credits. From Sydney, Australia, all the way to Portland, USA, two misfits hang out after class to riff on the B-sides of professional life. These are your professional misfits. All the way from Sydney, Australia, I am your host, Christopher Sellers.
And from Portland, Oregon, I'm Broedy Ipox.
And we are your professional misfits, where we riff on the B-sides of professional life. And season 5 Misfits is sponsored by IGU. And I think last week I did an ASMR promo. So I think this time, do you have any suggestions? Or I might just go with like a Crazy Eddie's sales pitch.
Please, right. give it.
Season 5 of the Professional Misfits is brought to you by an old game with a new twist where modern innovation and nostalgia come together to bring you Tag for today. Download IGU now. There we go.
Perfect. Where are my speakers for my car?
Like blown out. Like, thanks, Chris. Ruined the episode. Tapped out already. All right. Episode 58, Misfits. We're talking about hobbies. Yes. Everyone needs a hobby. Let's talk about something fun. So we're going to talk about hobbies. What's a hobby? What are your hobbies, Broedy? What are my hobbies? And we'll get to some deeper exploration around this a little bit later. But for now, Broedy, do you know that you got called out as a fake Spider-Man fan?
No, is that the comment you were telling me about?
I did. This is the comment I baited you with last week.
That's so fucked up. It's so fucked up.
I think it's episode 52. I think it's somewhere in the comments. Some bro is like, come on, Broedy. Like, Peter Parker wasn't Venom. Come on, man.
Okay, if you want me to get real fucking nerdy, at one point, yes, the fuck he was. Yes, the fuck he was. Right. Peter Parker did indeed have the symbiote attached to his suit. He was originally Venom before Venom was. Okay, so don't even. Okay.
There it is.
Okay.
People can get a little bit personal and defensive around their hobbies. Misfits.
Well, don't attack it if you don't know. Come on.
You don't even know, man. You don't even know.
Come on.
He's going to start whipping out issue numbers. Like, right here. Right here.
Yeah, right there on the wall.
And the amazing Spider-Man, not the extraordinary Spider-Man, and not right. So hobbies, Broedy. Do you have any hobbies? Let's start seeing.
I've got a bunch, but I mean, I think the weirdest one that everybody baits me into talking about is tattooing myself, obviously.
Oh yes, we haven't touched on that for a while. So yeah, go on. When did this start? How did it start? Why did it start?
Okay, so my mom, she got diagnosed cancer. Mm-hmm. And she said, I want as many tattoos as possible. And I said, okay, that's it. You got to set aside a budget. Then we got really talking about it. And one of the things that we came across, and granted, she found an artist that was wonderful about tattooing her during chemo, because a lot of artists won't. They
Understandable.
it has nothing to do with the cancer or anything like that. It's the radiation in the blood and how transferable that is to a ton of other fucking things. So yeah, she was worried about it, and I was like, "Give me a fucking tattoo machine. I'll tattoo myself." As a joke, I said it to my mother. I said, "I will tattoo myself, and I'll learn how to do it." And she fucking, I think it was like maybe a day or two later, maybe.
Brilliant.
And she sent me the Amazon link, and I was like, "Oh my God." And yeah, just for context, I've tattooed myself probably over 50 times and have over 150 individual tattoos on my body, like that I've done. So it definitely became a hobby. It was.
Can you throw up on videos some examples just for some misfits at home so they can see?
This entire arm.
Yeah.
This is me. This whole.
Too bad for everyone on Spotify. This is amazing. This is amazing imagery.
You like the little Mickey Mouse? That's one of the first ones. That was terrible. This is terrible.
Well, yeah, you're obviously trying to get your right hand all the way around under your left arm to tat. Yeah.
That's another thing that a lot of people do not understand about that hobby. They'll fucking roast me. They'll grill me alive, and they'll go, "Oh, that line wasn't perfect, this or that, or blah, blah, blah." The tattoo artists, okay, Misfits, by the way, I've spent time with quite a few licensed professional tattoo artists. They all talk about how crazy it is that I've never had a mentor or apprentice or any of those things, and to be in the awkward positions that I am and not be able to stretch the skin, because that's one of the biggest things is
hands,
you need two hands. And if I'm tattooing one of my fucking hands, there's not a lot of stretching that I can do. But I just figured it out, and it just, that was probably to date my funnest like hobby, because of how exploratory I got with it and how much there was to learn. I mean, fuck, dude. I'll be honest, Misfits, it is only a hobby. I will never be a tattoo artist ever in my whole life. I love you guys. I just don't love people. So having to fucking tattoo someone for 6 hours straight in a weird spot in their body, some dumb shit that they want, just does not sound good.
Clown.
No. Absolutely not.
Unicorn
Sorry.
on my lower back. Yeah,
can't do it. There's so many things that I'd just be like, cannot do that. So I'm not the guy.
It's a bit of an extreme hobby to explore on oneself. Like, there's no takebacks, there's no second chance, there's no do-over.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Look, okay, so I'll say it like this. I did approach it with a little practicality because of that. So like any hobby that is a little more finite, like we're talking about, that you there's definite consequence to your action or the hobby itself, whether that be physical impact on your body or your mind or whatever the hell it is. I went into it really trying to understand what am I trying to accomplish with this, right? Like for me, end goal was to be good enough to tattoo my mom. That's what I wanted to do. So for me, I took it in phases where it was everything on my body was done in an outline first. So by the time I had gotten to my arm and I had done some weird spots on my legs and shit like that, I knew how to do a line. Maybe not how you would do it in a shop, maybe not how professionals would do it, but I learned how to throw a line. And then shading was incorporated, and then color comes into play. And I've done it in phases to where, there's no takebacks, but like if at one point in the fucking process I fucked up, I knew that I didn't have to continue with the rest of the process that way. If I had
Mhm.
come across shading and it had been just so overwhelmingly hard that I could not get any contrast or any
Yeah.
visible artistic level of, execution, I would have stopped. I would have very quickly and very easily stopped. But that's what I was saying, is that it just, the more I explored and the more I attempted to do things and tried things, the more successful I was. So it kind of became a little addicting. I will say, I think I'm a masochist, so that probably wasn't, that probably
I think
wasn't the
everyone who gets
greatest.
tats says
Yeah,
that.
a little bit.
You get one, and you're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I'm good," and they're like,
yeah. Oh, and it's hilarious too, because the first couple, they always blame it on the aesthetic. Oh, I can find, it finally feels like my skin, which
Yep.
I'm with you. I love you. Good for you. I'm glad you feel good. The thing that you're really feeling is the fucking oxytocin and dopamine and all the shit that's happening from your fucking body taking a constant fucking wound, people. That's what is fucking happening. That's why they call it tattoo therapy. It actually,
Mhm.
it has a profound physical response on the way that a lot of people process their
Yeah.
mental pain. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. If you need to be under the needle to fucking be leveled, then you better plan your skin out.
Cool. Very cool. Good strong start.
What about
Strong
you?
start.
What's your most abstract hobby, you'd say? How about that? Let's start there with
Abstract
you.
hobby.
Just something that not everybody's doing.
Yeah, I guess it only dawned on me this morning. It's like, look, I suppose street photography's up there, and we
Mm-hmm.
might have talked
Mm-hmm.
about it last season when I was on the verge of publishing a street photography book, but
Mm-hmm.
and
Which I
specifically
still
street.
think you should do.
Well, it's there. It's there. It's, this next book first, and then we'll worry about picture books later.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, street photography specifically. The funny thing is, like, acting background, and if you have a decent camera and you can take decent photos, every actor's like, "Oh, can you do my headshot? Can you do my headshot?" And I think I tried that
Well,
for a
that's
week.
because, like we were talking about before the meeting, that's a $1,200 motherfucking service right there, and you
It
got a
is.
buddy with a camera.
And you want to build a portfolio so you can kind of
Yeah,
do them for cheap. But
yeah,
I
yeah.
was bored, to be honest. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, honestly, the shots were great and everyone was really, really happy. And then I got getting hit up for more work. But I was like, this is, I'm. It was such
You
an
would.
artist thing. And I'm like, I'm over it. I'm
You
done.
would. I know. I was gonna say you would. You fucking would. I'm bored. I'm
Pretty
bored.
much.
You
Pretty
start
much.
paying me. Ah.
She's hot and she wants to be naked. I'm like, nah, I'm over it, bro. I'm over it. But the thing I specifically like street photography for the challenge. And if anyone has seen some of my stuff or on LinkedIn, every Sunday I'll post.
Fantastic work.
That's very kind. I post black and white street photography,
Mhm.
so it is very artsy. But
Very rarely he will. Very rarely he will post color, and I'll tell you, Misfits, when he does, those motherfucking pictures are insane.
you're a nice guy, Broedy. But there's something about there's something about the principle of it. So I learned how to shoot on film and how to develop negative, like even back in school.
Oh wow, nice.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Yep.
And then
Yep. Yep.
I always seem to prefer black and white for whatever reason. And there was something about the fact that that's sort of where the roots of photography came from. Like, even like old newspapers, some of the greatest shots of all time. If you're a nerd for street photographers like Duano or people like that, who I really liked, it's just people living and loving life in normal urban circumstances and like these intimate moments of sport. So
That was a beautiful description of that. That's
right.
street photography. The moment, right?
Yes, like, so precisely that, and the fact that they on my post I make the distinction, like, I have 3 rules for my street photography. It's got to be candid, so nothing staged. There's no posing. You avoid Photoshop, and I prefer black and white. So it challenges you to work with raw materials.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I can't say, hey,
Yeah.
like, hold that cigarette a different way or turn your head or whatever else. Like,
right.
I have to adapt. I have to move. I have to get the shot. And what I really like about it and I've told this is getting what I
No,
really
keep
like
going.
about it.
This is
And
the freaking episode.
okay. What I really like about it, and I've talked about creative skills before, but like it challenges like so much more of your creative skills because it's candid and you're working with strangers in the wilderness. You have to be there at that time to get that shot, and you have to see it. You know what I mean? So,
have you seen the film Walter Mitty?
oh, I haven't, and I want to.
Chris. Okay, you
Yeah.
need to. Yes, you need to.
All
I
right.
won't even go into the
I'll
movie.
do that after we're done here, and then
Yeah,
that'll be my evening.
please. I'd be so excited if you did. The photographer in that movie, you're reminding me a ton about him, and I won't give it away because he's a huge piece of the movie. But at one point in the film, he's taking a picture of a rare like mountain lion or something out in like Tibet or some shit, and Walter's sitting next to him, and he's just he sees the tiger, and he refuses. He's not looking at the camera. He's not looking down the lens. He's not taking the picture, and he's like, "Why aren't you taking it?" He goes, "Well, some of these moments are for me."
Yeah.
And I think, like you're talking about with street photography, that's the essence of it, right? Like it just for any photographer that knows anything about taking a picture, the moment, the some of that shit that's staged, it like, yeah, it can look great, it can look fantastic, but what you're doing, like you're talking about, that's, you've got to be there. You have to be there.
Yeah.
You and your presence, your awareness has to be in that moment. And I think that's what's so genuine about it, is that you can almost feel that in a photo that's done well.
I would like to think so too. And it's not, the interesting thing about what I find about street photography is because what you're capturing is raw. Like Instagram and socials is happy, fun, good life, all the positive shit. Street photography
The highlight reel, right?
Exactly right. Street photography should sort of tear down that curtain so you can, catch intimate moments that you probably shouldn't. You can catch cruel or sad moments. You could there's more. Art photography should be evocative. It should provoke some sort of emotion from you, rather than, oh cool, that's Thailand, oh cool, they're on a plane, oh that's nice, that's my food haul. That's my food haul from Melbourne.
That is one of the color photos, Misfits, that I fucking absolutely love. I gotta pay Chris for a print because I want this shit on my wall.
I remember that as well, because I think I was in Melbourne for a conference, and I don't even remember what the conference was. And that, believe it or not, that was taken on a phone. So
would not have guessed.
Right, and that's another thing as well. Like in the world of, got to have the latest Nikon, Canon, blah 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 blah. Got to have all the tools. Got to have all the toys. Got to do this and that. I'm like, fuck no, man. I've had 2 cameras. One's been analog. The next one's been digital. I prefer an optic viewfinder. It's rather than a digital viewfinder, because I need to sight what I'm seeing, and I don't like delay on the feedback. So I'm a nerd like that. But it's and the other thing as well is, like, if I laid out, let's say I print the photography book and I lay out like 400 shots, right? And for your average audience, you go, like, that's 400 fucking images. Wow, that's amazing. It's so inspiring. It's like, yeah, that's 400 days of walking around for hours on your own with a camera.
For the one shot worth of salt.
You'll take, when I was planning this book, I think we talked about it in an episode maybe, because like I know that if I walk around for something like, how many hours I walked around, and I'll get 200 or 300 shots in a day, and out of those 200 or 300 shots, I might get 10 that I can use, and out of those 10 that I can use, I might just touch up 5, in a day.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and so
Yeah.
and so it's a funny sort of thing. Like you were talking about stenciling and sort of working your way up and doing everything else. Again, like everyone sees the shot. You see the food hall and go, "That's fucking amazing." I'm like, yeah. Like one great shot is great. You need more than one, you know. And this is where like your craft and your skill kind of come into it, and also your discipline and your temperament. Because who the fuck is like walking around Sydney alone with a camera, looking like a tourist? Like you're not really talking to anyone, and you know, and especially in today's day and age, trying to take photographs of people when they're not looking at their phone, and trying to take photographs of people probably when they don't expect it and not getting caught, and then people getting kind of suspicious and this sort of shit just in this day and age.
Have you ever had someone, because just for context, Misfit,
yeah.
Chris does have a lot of people in as his
Subject.
frame of subject, and it is always candid. So I'm just, has that anyone ever like turned around and been like, "Hey, motherfucker," like
once jumps into mind actually. I was walking, there was a picture like a cobblestone alleyway where it's like restaurants on either side, but it must have been maybe early in the morning, so no one's sitting down yet, so it's sort of pre-service, and one of these sort of side doors was open, and you could look straight down into a galley kitchen, you know what I mean? And there's one of the guys there who was just like prepping over the stove, and it was framed nicely down through the doorway, the corridor.
Very cool shot.
Yeah. One guy just like on the tools, on pans or whatever. And just as I sort of line up and like angle and go click, he's turned and looked. And then you kind of got to do the tourist thing of like, no. And he's actually come out and he's like, "Dude, like you can't take my photo, rah, rah, rah." I'm like, "Hey, look." Yeah, and trying to calm down and whatever, and then he was actually really aggressive about it, and I'm like, "Look, hey, just chill. Besides, the door was open. It's a public space. Unfortunately, you know, just relax." And he's like,
I know. I hate when people get in that space because look, I think, I mean, contextually, your privacy is your privacy, right? Like, yeah. I want you to have that autonomy. I don't think no matter where you should go, I should be able to strip that of you. But forewarning, public spaces are public spaces, Misfits. And if you don't want your picture taken, you probably shouldn't be out in public like that. It's just, I mean, don't assume that everybody's got a camera, but
right.
You know, and to Jesus.
Be fair, it was one of these. And this is the thing, like it's one of those borderline calls because like I'm in the public space in the thoroughfare. You're kind of at work minding your own business, and it's a bit of a shock to see someone.
Right.
You know, it's the same thing with
like.
What
the fuck is this guy?
and it's the same if you happen to get shots of kids.
Oh, you know fair.
You know,
fair.
There's in Sydney. There's a St Mary's Cathedral in the middle of town. It's our biggest, sort of oldest, grandest church, and there's a park across that Centennial Park where there's a giant fountain. Excuse me. And I remember getting, someone was blowing bubbles, and then there's a shot of these two kids. Right, so two very young kids, like just chasing the bubbles and like jumping through the air. And so I got this shot of these two kids who were probably both like 2-ish off the ground chasing bubbles. So it looks like they're floating, like with the flare of the sunlight hitting the water drops of the fountain, kind of giving it that little ethereal sort of quality. But again, it was one of those shots you grab once or twice and then sort of have to move on, because sitting around taking photos of kids as a man, and I've taught kids and all this other sort of stuff, but there's still
of course that's you being
impression.
Conscious of that though. That in that, I'll tell you what, I think that's more respect than anything. That it's not because I'll tell you, even when you go to like a public space with your kids, like Disneyland, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's taking pictures. Everybody's taking videos. But same thing when you catch a whiff of somebody maybe taking a little too long.
Yeah, just like holding that video and kind of tracking.
Right, and your kid. I get what you're saying. So, no, I mean, that's nothing but respect. I wonder too if same thing. like with the guy in the restaurant. I wonder if it's something where it's like, if you have the capacity to show it, show them, right? Because normally anybody being able to see it is like, God, okay, that's fucking great. Can I get a copy of that? And then the vice versa to that is, if I can't show you, can I get this to you? You know, this is yours. You know, like if you're in it and you have a issue with it, or you want proprietary rights to it, it's yours. But you know, I'd love to just have the moment. That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's probably one of my abstract hobbies, I guess.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I listened to photography for a long time. Never claimed it as a hobby, never claimed to be a photographer, because I was all about the macro shots. I really like close-ups of flowers and foliage and that kind of shit. And that's the most cliche fucking.
No.
So I just
know one other person that did it, and she's like really into like insects on flowers and that.
Oh, Interesting, nice. That would have been cool. That I'd never really had that thought, but no, yeah, I really liked close-ups of things that filled the photo with details that you wouldn't normally be paying attention to. You know, the pollen from a flower sitting on the petal, or a dewdrop, you know, casting a reflection that small. You know, those kind of things were just really cool to me. But yeah, no, photography is way more rare than it seems. Like, even with all like the fucking TikTok, I'll take pictures of your wedding type shit. Like,
I think I make the comment probably once every second episode that despite having a digital camera in every single phone, it's not turned us into this generation of artistic, like Tarantinos and Diane Arbusses and people like that. Like, it, you know, the tool is great. The tool is great.
Even then, me and Chris have talked about this in length. Some of your guys' photos, I'm not coming after all of you, but some of your guys' photos look like they've been straight up taken on a fucking 2000 Motorola Razor. Like, what? And you have the iPhone. So, like, I'm just like, what the fuck? You could have the best camera in the world, and I don't know if you'd get the shot.
It's and even then, it's not the tool. It's like, what's the story you're telling here? Because ideally, to be the arts nerd, like, sure, a picture tells 1,000 words, but you're the one who's crafting the picture. So, what are you showing? What are you telling us? What are you making us feel? Why? You know, and there's a lot of there is a lot of skill and craft that goes into tone, composition, subject matter, all these sorts of things. I won't nerd out on it too much, but that's...
Well, no, because that's good, because that one of the questions Joyce had presented to me is, when is it no longer a hobby?
Yeah, I was probably going to get to that later, but it's like, is it as simple as, like, there's shit you get paid for and there's shit you don't?
Right, because... So one quote that I thought of, and I will not be able to remember who it is or directly quote it, so I'm sorry, Misfits, but it was something like, a hobby is no longer a hobby when you're paid, right? And a hobby is no longer a hobby when you're actually passionate. So there's like two sides to that scope, right? You know what I mean? Because, like, and what's funny is, let me pull up Joyce. If you pull up Joyce's breakdown of, you know, what she says, it's no longer a hobby. It's almost the same, to where the two indicating factors for her that separate a hobby from a job or whatever, anything else, right, is monetization is the first, and then time commitment is the second. Okay. Regardless of monetization, that's what she even says. Regardless of monetization, time commitment is what will essentially separate hobbies from something else.
As in, the more time you invest in it, it becomes a hobby? Okay.
Yeah, or the more time you invest in, the less of a hobby that it would be, I would suppose, and more of a practice or a passion.
In the bell curve there.
I know, right? Like, what's that's the fucking paradox, right? Like, so that, I thought that was wildly interesting. Let's talk about that.
Okay, because as boys, like, gaming.
Oh my God.
You will sink a 10-hour day into grinding it out.
Okay, right.
You know?
But and look, I'd imagine that when you it's compartmentalized like that, right? The time commitment thing also isn't just gauged as a passion, but I imagine there's a negative quality to that side of the scale as well,
It's a
where a
lifestyle,
hobby.
bro. It's not a lifestyle. It's
Nah,
not a
that's
hobby.
an
It's a
addiction,
lifestyle.
bro. It's an addiction, is what it's. So I think that's the kind of horizontal flip is like is is it a passion, is it an addiction, or isn't it a hobby when it's about strictly the time commitment that someone is putting forth into whatever that may be.
Or we can just say Joyce is wrong and it comes down to
that's true.
monetization or not.
That's true.
Gaming's not a bad example because for as long as you're grinding it out solo on COD, doing whatever it is you're doing, like it's a hobby. But there's professional esports is now a thing, and so then
a very lucrative thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, and so if you're then getting paid to play/train and then compete at a certain level, then
yeah, I don't know. I'll say this because it's hard for me because I've had multiple hobbies, and even the tattooing myself, I was getting, and I told you this too. I was actually getting paid requests from artists that wanted to tattoo me for their exposure. I was getting sponsorship equipment. I was getting free things sent to me, those kind of stuff. And yeah, I did a couple of little advertisements. I did an unboxing video. I did that kind of stuff. So
you
is
had
that
your hobby and you sold out, bro?
Right. So is it no longer a hobby? You know what I mean? And then, so I tell a lot of people too, content creation will always be a hobby of mine. I love creating. I just love the visual arts. I just do. Whether that's graphically or video, whatever. I like it. I'll always enjoy doing that. But I mean, I could leverage the shit out of my fucking marketing experience and probably get paid to do just about fucking anything I want to do on the planet. I still would consider most of those things a fucking hobby. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck about the monetization. For me, if I'm being real personal about it and I'm not trying to be too wishy-washy, it's about the personal investment, right? So yes, time is an indicating factor, but then too, to have my own argument is that if I enjoy doing it past the length of it being a responsibility, I could still constitute that shit as a hobby. Sorry, I'm just really good at what I fucking choose to be a hobby.
Yeah, to be invested, to like have passion for your project or whatever.
Yes,
but it's see, for me, it feels like then there's the term hobby suggests a level of sort of amateurism around it.
Okay.
For me.
Okay.
So like if suddenly,
if I'm talking about it in that context, it totally is. I mean,
but to take your example, like you enjoy tattooing yourself. It started out there, you taught yourself, and then you're getting requests for this and that, and then you say you wanted to step into that space and go, well, here's my channel. I get paid to do this now. Blah 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 blah. You turned your sort of hobby into a passion project. You know what I mean? It sort of evolves from there. Where what other hobbies do I have? Like fuck. I taught myself sleight of hand during COVID.
I was going to say, don't even get hung up now. You have a fucking ton tap dancing, magic tricks. Like, what the fuck, dude? Here, let me pause for a second and think of the. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, let's do that real quick. I mean, because I have another thing that I wanted to talk about from Joyce that I think is interesting and kind of funny. Just list off some of your hobbies. List them off.
Okay.
Just fire. Shoot.
I've got a little list here. I did do photography. We've done that. I taught myself sleight of hand during COVID. There was reasons for that, but I can still like pull out card tricks at a party, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I only play Borderlands. I only play Borderlands 2, folks.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Nothing else.
hang on. This ties into what I was going to mention next. I did play the original Space Marine. I would play Space Marine 2 because I'm a huge 40k nerd, except I've only got a PS4 and this thing only runs on PS5. So I'm like, you motherfuckers. So there's that. But that leads into, 40k. So Warhammer 40,000, super fucking niche, very nerdy. And
just real quick for the Misfits, because
Yeah.
it is it's a very heard of game.
Right.
Nobody knows what the fuck it is. Not a single I'm telling you right now, and I know a lot of gamers. So you just give your brief explanation of
really
it.
Funny. All right. So the logo for Warhammer 40,000 is in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. So take your cyberpunk dystopia and times it by 1,000 and go 1 billion years into the future, right? So humanity only survives by waging war and defending itself against every other alien species in the known universes, plural.
Oh.
And so, yeah, right. So out of that, you've got little civilian humans who live on Terra, which is like what would be Earth, but the Emperor of Mankind has evolved the Space Marine, which is like the superhuman super soldier, that is the fighting force and the bulwark against all the enemies of the known universe, right? So, and within that, within the 40k, there's obviously the tabletop game, which is where it's sort of is its bread and butter and all the miniatures, and you can play the game and all that sort of stuff. Every army has its own rules.
Not dissimilar to Dungeons and Dragons in kind of the concept with the tabletop, right? Where they're
sorry, I'll say
okay,
no.
Okay.
Because D&D, you're one character, like, and you role play through as like one character. On 40k, like if I have an army, a Space Marines army, then I have commanders, platoons, troops, tanks. Like they sell all the merch. So you're the general of a giant fucking army. And then there's all these other alien races that also have their giant armies and they can play. And then there's books. There's books and fiction and there's lore. So there's a whole fucking sci-fi universe and lore that's built into this, right? And then the games obviously come out. Now, my brother and I have been 40k nerds since 3rd edition, and that goes back to the 1990s, folks. Right. So even if we didn't actively play, we'd still sort of follow the lore and follow the evolutions, because the game gets reinvented probably every 2 or 3 years. You know, just like refresh on the rules, and Games Workshop can resell all their merch. So
smart.
Yeah.
Smart.
But I mean, the running joke as well. Like, even though they're little plastic figurines, cocaine is cheaper.
Okay.
It would be a cheaper hobby. It is.
I'd argue, though, Misfits, the hobbies that are more expensive in that context are the ones that are going to keep you straight, though. So, that's cocaine might be cheaper,
like,
but
looking back at my like early 20s, like teens and early 20s, like sitting around the table with either my brother. Well, my brother and I never finished a game. We'd always end up fighting. But I had like one or two friends that we could routinely play. You know what I mean? And so if you're a 20-year-old guy chasing girls and then hanging out with your friends playing tabletop war games, there's better than getting hammered or getting stoned or like doing any other sort of reckless shit. You know what I mean?
Honestly, agree 100%. I'll say this. I'm probably going to crucify myself here, and hopefully I don't decide to clip this up for social media, but huge World of Warcraft nerd. I'm a huge in my gaming hobby. That's my addiction, is World of Warcraft, and I just love it. Same thing. Go ahead.
There's a lot of parallels between like StarCraft and 40k. So that style of universe, that style of gameplay. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. I didn't know that. Yeah, and that's I just love it for where you were going with it. The thing about World of Warcraft is like it's gone on for so long and had so many expansions and had so much fan culture around it and all this stuff. Oh, I'm gonna
You have to out
You're
yourself, bro.
asking me to
You have to out
crucify
yourself,
myself. I'm a protection paladin. Blood elf protection paladin.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at like the shame you're trying to hold back. I'm just lean into it, man. You're a blood elf protection paladin. Own
And
that.
yeah,
Own that.
for the horde.
Hey, you're gonna have a whole bunch of people in the comments going, "Me too. What's your handle, bro? Like, we should party."
Yeah, so I can't tell you how many countless hours I've sunk into that game, where it's like same thing, like where this stemmed from is like, was that an addiction or was that a hobby? And
Yeah.
You made a valid point. I don't know. I think you're right. I think there's a distinction, right? When it changes. I genuinely feel like, for me though, even fleshing this out with the video games, it's just the level of impact I think it has on your life or the integrity of your routine. You know, like if it becomes a problem, then that's an addiction. If you manage to fucking fit in 2-3 hours of World of Warcraft every other day, what? Who the fuck am I? Everybody else sits and watches Netflix for
right. But so this is where I wonder as well, because we only ascribe hobby to like a certain category of like extracurricular activities. It doesn't seem to apply to sport. Like, is the gym a hobby?
Interesting. Oh, right? Yeah. I totally.
Is like your kids playing football? Yeah. Is that a hobby?
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Totally.
Okay. I don't know if interesting.
Why wouldn't you? Let's start there.
I'm not quite sure, but it doesn't seem to fit a sport definition. Like, even I played soccer at a fairly high level, and like state and rep, and then Premier League. But it was never to the point of being paid. But it was.
But it felt different than a hobby.
Yeah, training through times a week, traveling to camps, going away for tournaments.
Well, again, I think it just cycles back to what I said. I think it's your personal level of investment. So, like, if you approach a sport as it's something that I get to do for 2 hours a day, it gets me out of the house, it's fun, I enjoy it, that's a much different persona than like you're talking about. I come to train. That's different, right? So I guess contextually too, like I said, it's all personal investment. For me, the gym, probably most people, the level that I participate in the gym, it would no longer be a hobby. You know what I mean?
It's a lifestyle, bro. It's not a hobby.
At this point, at this standpoint, we're getting pretty close. But that's what I mean too. And so, like, when do I say it is a lifestyle, right? Like there are adjustments or things or routines that make a further impact than it just being, I like to routinely go to the gym. Yeah. So I don't know. It seems like such a gray area too, where I didn't really think about that before this episode. What's included, right? Like, and speaking just now, like, motherfucker, you watch Netflix and you scroll social media. I'm sorry, those are hobbies. Those are hobbies. Those are fucking hobbies. Do they become habits? Sure. Sure. But I genuinely think if you frame that in the same kind of space that, look, you spend that 2, 3, 4 hours a night on Netflix, well, I'm playing my guitar or I'm tattooing myself. That it's just the difference in where we choose to allocate our time. I'm
gonna spitball a definition here.
Okay.
That for a hobby, there needs to be some sort of active investment. Like, I think scrolling Netflix or whatever, is too passive. So that you need to be actively involved, and there needs to be some sort of like enjoyable payoff. So those two things, like, you need to actively participate, you need to proactively do something, like playing the guitar, or I had a girlfriend that used to love to knit. So there's
okay.
Reading, I don't know. No.
I was just about to say.
I know you want to quiz me on writing later, and I'm like, but that's sort of an active thing. It's not a passive thing. But there's a level on the other side of that. There's got to be some sort of payoff. So going to the gym, obviously, there's a payoff, and then you can argue whether it's monetized or not or whatever. But yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I like I said, I feel like it's just to me it's just presenting the fact that hobby is kind of just a buzzword for fucking shit that we like to individually do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and that there's actually kind of a bit of power in that. I like what you said about the World of Warcraft. Lean into that shit. I mean, because again, you got to look at it in that kind of context, right?
Yeah.
If I'm worried about how people view me spending my time tattooing myself, motherfucker, I would way rather be doing that than sitting on my ass watching TV.
Or it's really sad. Yeah, it's really sad if it's something that whatever it is, if it's something that you enjoy. This is the point I was just about to get to. I was like, because we normally have hobbies when we're younger. You know, we enjoy play, we enjoy having friends and doing all this sort of stuff, and we trying these things, and we might find little obscure things that we really really like, and then you sort of move through your 20s and your 30s, and jobs and being adults and all this sort of shit gets in the way, and so you give up all your toys and all your things, and then so you might lose a little element of joy somewhere, and it feels like you're not allowed. You've grown out of that. You're not allowed to have it anymore, and I think it's sad and not altogether healthy if you give up all the things that ever gave you joy. And I'm saying this for me because there was when you look at your life and who you are and what you want to be and where you want to go and everything else, if you only ever define yourself by the things that you achieve and accomplish and your roles and your money and all that sort of stuff, it's a very heavy cross to bear. It's like, well, what things that aren't of monetary value do you derive joy in? That
right.
sort of satisfy your soul. They might be worth reconnecting with, because it's not. Surely life and relationships isn't just the pursuit of titles and money.
Yeah, I love that. I'll tell you, I've gone. My inner child has gone rambunctiously loud into the night. Like it has taken years and years to even cut the edge off, and I'm really grateful for that, because I think and that's the thing. I think, like you said, when you're young, you're not focused on anything else. It is just play, right? It is just play and
You're allowed that. You're
experience.
allowed that space. Yeah.
Yes, and that's the thing I think I get so frustrated about, and I tell people this all the time, because one of the biggest arguments I get from friends or anything like that about the gym in particular, right, is I just don't have the time. I just don't have the
Yeah.
time. It's like, bro,
If
you
it's not
do
that, it'll be
though.
the money. Those are the two top excuses. Yeah.
Right, and like, and that's so not the fucking truth. You know, it's like the same thing. Like, so Corbin's mentioned a lot on the podcast. My buddy from here, we grew up together. We skateboard still.
Right.
I'm in my 30s, Misfits. I'm in my 30s. I should be careful, but like I said, rambunctiously into the night, because there's so much joy and freedom in things like that, and being my age, bro, I go to the skate park and get nothing but, bro, I hope I'm still skating when I'm your age, and all the kids are stoked. And if you can do anything on a skateboard, anybody thinks you're cool. So
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, there's just, you have the time. You have the time. It's what I'm trying to touch on is what actually makes us lose it, because I really don't think it's the time. Even as we're growing older and we're adding more to the plate, and things get a little lost along the way, I feel more than anything, contextually, the times that I've let hobbies go is when it's been viewed indifferently by someone around me, right? So let's say I'm playing
Okay.
video games a bunch, right? And somebody who doesn't like that, or hasn't been around someone like that, doesn't know that kind of thing, that can strike them as annoying or frustrating or
Or weird or whatever.
disconnected or
Yeah.
weird, whatever the fuck it is. And same thing for skateboarding. I'm fucking in my 30s, so anybody that thinks about it for more than 5 seconds is like, you're an idiot, bro. You got hospital bills to think about. Like, you could break your hand, you're out work, like all this stuff. That it's like, yeah, I mean, sure, but who and when did we listen to whatever voice that was that really we put it down? Like you said, I love the way that you said that. It's like we put the toy down. You put it down and you forgot about it, out of sight, out of mind. And I just don't think we do that naturally, I guess. I don't think it's a natural kind of progression as an overgrown fucking child. I still play with my toys, and I'm so glad that I do, but I think a lot of people don't. I just wonder really, truly what that is, because I don't think it's the time, and I don't think it's the money. I don't. Do you just care? Do you just care too much about what someone around you might think? Or
I think we talked about this in one of the earlier episodes of this season. I think it's got a lot to do with the whole values thing. And I talked about it in terms of schooling. Like, we value certain things. We need to be smart and serious. And so we commit to that with the best of intentions. But so in committing to be smart and serious and earning money and being professional and being adults for many requires you to give up the toys and the happy things. It's really funny we ended up here, because I was talking to myself in the mirror not like half an hour ago, having this exact conversation, to imaginary engineers, saying like, look, this has been your progress, to be smart, serious people and to go off and do smart, serious things, but that doesn't mean you're creative, right? And there's a whole bunch of creative skills which are demonstrated in the arts consistently that you just don't value. Now, why is it that you gave up the guitar and stopped speaking French? Like, you could have continued to be a very serious, smart engineer and play the guitar and speak French, but
arguably apply those practices that you're talking about to those same things.
Or even exactly right. And holistically have this approach, but you chose not to for reasons and values. And ultimately it's you. And again, time and money is always the first two excuses. You go, great. If it wasn't the time and if it wasn't the money, then what would it be? And that's when you get silence. And then the tiny spotlight of accountability. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that can be uncomfortable for some. That spotlight is a fucking uncomfortable thing, because then you go, oh, it was me. It wasn't mum and dad. It wasn't X, Y, and Z. Now you have a choice. Now you have a choice to do something about it. Look, again, and you can either pick up old toys or learn new ones. I taught myself sleight of hand from YouTube videos during the lockdown while writing a book.
Yep.
And then still for fun, we'll go into cafes sometimes and journal with a deck of cards, and someone will go, oh, do you do card tricks? And then do some tricks with waitresses for fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. Joyce had one more thing. We got a couple minutes.
All right. We'll wrap up at 5.
Okay, so can you guess the top 3 hobbies for both the United States and Australia? For your information, I was way the fuck off for both of them.
Are any of them sport related?
United States, yes.
Okay, then it'll have to be football for the States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yep.
There's one.
Yep. That is number 3. Yep.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Hobbies. I'll take 2 wild guesses. I'll say knitting and I'll say journaling.
Nope. Watching TV and fitness activities, aka the gym, hiking, running, cycling.
Okay, insightful choice.
So the watching TV is number 1 in the United States. That is the number 1 list, and this is from 2 different little studies. Right. Of over 50,000 people accumulated answers. Fucking TV, people. Jesus Christ. Do what you're gonna do. I love you to death. If you're gonna watch TV, pull up YouTube and watch the Misfits, because that's all I gotta say. Okay, Australia. What do you think your 3 are?
Surfing, hunting.
Damn it! Surfing's number 1. Surfing's number 1.
That's a lie. It's a fucking lie. Anyway, so this is an American study. This is an outsider study of Australians. Fucking hell. Yeah, it'll be surfing. It'll be having barbecues, and
fuck off, dude.
Wow. Stereotype much? Wow. And chasing snakes.
Misfits, I'm in
There you go.
tears. I'm in
Top three.
fucking tears.
Lay it on me.
Surfing, camping in the bush.
Ridiculous. Go on. Yeah. For all the Australian misfits, can you rage out in the comments? Because we all know this is bullshit. We all know. Go on. What's number 3? Surfing, camping in the bush,
and barbecuing.
Amazing.
You said it.
Amazing.
I didn't think about it until I said them out loud. How fucking stereotyped the Australian answers.
You just thought it was normal. Like, oh yeah, they all surf. Yeah. Every single one. Yep.
You guys don't? Come on, I'm
No, we all do. We all do.
in fucking tears.
It's part of your citizenship. You're born. You get handed.
You're on an island.
We are. We're on an island, and at least 80 to 90% of the population live on the coast. True.
So why don't come at me, Australians?
No, it's natural.
Makes fucking
it's natural
sense.
that every citizen in Australia surfs because the majority live on the coast. Makes perfect sense.
I cannot believe you got 2 out of 3 of the list on a
joke.
Sarcastic joke.
On that bombshell, Misfits. There we go. Top hobbies. What are yours? Put your hobbies. Put your obscure hobbies in the comments because we want to read. We want to find out what's going on. Because I think and add Broedy on World of Warcraft.
Please. We'll do some rating. We'll do some rating.
All right. So that wraps up episode 58 Misfits
58.
hobbies. Episode 59, Broedy. Do you know what's coming up next?
No, I don't. And I looked at the fucking run sheet. Damn it. I did. I closed it for Joyce, though. I closed it for Joyce.
We need to create a supercut of every time you need to take a drink and just be hammered.
I'm writing that down, actually.
Do that.
Yep, I'm writing that down. That'll
At
be
least
a great piece of content.
By the end of season 5, we have a supercut of how many drinks you'd have to take. We'll take a poll of how many drinks in 5 seasons you think you
guys are wasted. You guys are.
So episode 59 coming up next week, Misfits. We're talking about the identity crisis. Is there an identity crisis for men, for women, for all that sort of stuff? Like, what is it? Is there one? Where does it come from? What should we do about it? You say yes, Broedy.
Yep.
Expand.
Yep. I say yes, and it's from the influx of influence. I've written a little thing about it. I think it's the saturation of influence. I think there's too much around, and I love human beings. I love us, but we're very simple. We're very simple, and the information you intake is generally who you become. And
simple and susceptible.
Yes. So, that's my take. That's what I think.
Interesting. I don't know. I don't know, and I'm willing to explore it. You know, especially the reasons how and why. Because with the majority of most things, I think it's personal responsibility. So, you know, if you don't know what something is, figure it out for yourself. Yeah. But we'll see. I'm sure there's a lot of interesting influences, no pun intended, that apply to something as complex. But then it's like episode 59, that's what we're talking about next week. And then episode 60, it's wrap up and the season, Misfits. So tune in, subscribe, like, because it makes us feel good that people are listening.
It does.
Drop us a comment because we always try to reply to everyone in the comments. You can find us at promisfitspodcast.com with all of our contacts and connections and socials on there. You can support us on Patreon, which would be really, really cool because I need coffee and Broedy, as explained, needs tattoo ink and new glasses.
Yes, please.
Thanks again to IGU for sponsoring season 5. And in the meantime, I've been Chris.
I've been Broedy.
And you stay classy, Misfits, and enjoy your hobbies. We'll see you on the next one.